as we always say for the final speaker, we save the best for the last. I think we have a pretty good shot of doing that. Shen Qu is a PhD candidate at Arizona State University in the Art History Department of the School of Art. She specializes in modern and contemporary art, post-war art market, and pre-modern East Asian craftsmanship and art theories. Currently, she teaches a course on the art of Asia and has developed another, Culture, Heritage, and Craft in East Asia, a higher division undergraduate course dedicated to pre-modern East Asian craftsmanship. This course draws on her extensive experience with cultural heritage residency programs in mainland China. Shen's published writings focus on art criticism, covering topics such as public art curation and museum studies. She will now present new research on the fascinating Cuban-born Chinese-American artist Qing Cheng. Please join me in welcoming Shen Qu.
I'd like to thank you, Professor Winter Tamaki, for hosting such an interesting panel. And I'd like to thank you, Professor Larkin and Professor Lee, for organizing such an amazing event. And it's my pleasure to contribute my research on Qing Cheng, a Cuban-born Chinese-American artist, to this amazing dialogue. And as the last speaker of this conference, I've learned a lot from all of the presenters. And I find a very intriguing point that quite a few fellows presenters made in their title, which is using prefix that contain denial or negating meanings like not or un or re. And as you may all notice, I fall into this pattern too. So the reason I put a not in the title is mainly because there are so many social stereotypes that if you're Chinese, you're probably from either laundryman or your railway or construction or working class or small merchants family. And if you're a son, then either you're going towards a career path in a doctor or a lawyer or computer science, and or you're inheriting your family business or marrying some Asian girl from a similar background. But Qing Cheng is quite different. As a Cuban-born Chinese-American artist active in the 1960s to 80s in New York, Qing transitioned from psychedelic painting to gouache and ultimately crafted intricate alchemical works in his short artistic career. Across these mediums, he explored self-identity and future imagination, influenced by the 1960s counterculture and politics. In 1946, Qing Cheng was born in a diplomatic family in Cuba. He had an elder stepbrother, Pax Cheng, and a stepsister, Mary Molan Wolfson, who were born in China and Geneva, and also a younger sister, Sibao Chen Wilson, from the same mom, born in New York. Now, Sibao currently oversees Qing's estate after the artist passed away of AIDS since 1989. So I will do a little bit background research because I would just so willing to share about this because for the majority of the information here, you probably cannot get it anywhere because right now China has a very strict restriction for going into archives. So there are the new research I've done this summer. So when Qing was born, his father, Paifeng Chen, just started serving the first secretary of the Chinese embassy under the government of nationalistic China in Havana, Cuba. According to the salary chart from the Second Historical Archive of China and Paifeng Chen's employment document from National Academia Historia Office, the Chen family not only lived off a good monthly salary of 400 yuan, but also enjoyed an annual 1,600 yuan clothing allowance. However, given the size of the Shen family, it might be just provide them a comfortable enough life. In 1949, after the Communist Party took over mainland China, the Chen family fled to the US in 1950, and among other 104 Chinese immigrants who entered the US under the quota of the Magnuson Act from 1943 to 1965. That quotes, in 1943, Congress passed a measure to repeal the discriminatory exclusion laws against Chinese immigrants and to establish an immigration quota for Chinese of around 105 visas per year. As such, the Chinese were both the first to be excluded in the beginning of the era of immigration restrictions and the first Asians to gain entry to the United States in the era of liberalization. So it's kind of like an interesting end of what we've discussed in the past 2 days about how they are being excluded and being deported. And also, you may notice from the birth year, so in different documents of robot Python Chen. So he used different birth years. Some of them are written about like 1900, some are written by 1903, and even in his citizenship, it's written in 1906. So it's kind of interesting how Chinese men like trying to cheat a little bit in their age when they're trying to look younger or trying to look a little bit older. And there's also research I didn't share here about his family history. So he was actually an illegitimate son, probably from Canton Pon, and this is still like under research because I'm trying to dig in if he's related to the Chen family in Canton. Around the same time, Qing's mother, Yufan Rosita Chen, who was born in Shanghai, her career as a designer and importer of women's clothes from China received great success, and which is after the Qing family immigrated to U.S. So after the arrival, the Qing family settled in Queens and remained an upper middle class life. As a lot of us might already notice, the fact that most artists are from a privileged background is usually overlooked. So maybe, and also his family background is greatly different from Martin Wang, the probably more well-known Asian American artist. So from 1953 to 1960, on the other hand, Robert Python Chen served at the United Nations with an annual income range from 4,250 to 6,000 US dollar, while the average income or the median money income of the family in the United States was about 5,600 in 1960s. So they are still like pretty much live above the regular income, even though if they only live off his dad's income, and also given the fact that his mom is also doing a pretty good job. So later, Python Chen then became a consultant to Northwest Airlines and retired in 1975 to write for Chinese news agencies. And his mom, being a good designer and importer of women's clothes from China, her blouse was carried by Henry Bendel. If you know that it's like an old luxury department store in New York, and on the Fifth Avenue, which her clothes was sold about for $250 back then. So I also trying to echo back to what Professor Doris Stone mentioned, that like there's like Chinese embroideries like in New York, and definitely her lace work, because like they're like her hand woven lace are still pretty good in the market. And this is Sibao still kept in her closet to kind of in memorizing of her mom. And therefore, with a comfortable childhood, Qing revealed his interest in art ever since he was still 6. And his interest was well supported by his family, according to an interview in the Soho Weekly News when he just had his first one-man show in New York. In general, Qing's creative career can be divided into 4 phases: psychedelic work from late 1960s to 1970s, gouache interior scene from late 1970s to 1980s, torn paper works in the mid-1980s, and alchemical works from 1987 to 1989. Across these media in different phases, traditional Chinese philosophy has always been an undertone of Qing's work. His artistic practice explored the traditional Chinese idea of rebirth through depicting imaginative images and extending to examine how energy transformed between humankind and the nature. From 1964 to 1968, Qing went to the Cooper Union School of Art and Architecture to study painting and sculpture, following Nicholas Krosnick, Richard Oswich, and Michael Goldberg. Being the only Asian student in the fine art cohort, Qing did not stand out as a typical Chinese straight A student, but made some good friends. And also around the same year, Qing's parents divorced, and that's probably the reason why Qing's dad still like trying to get a new job after retiring. And I have to say special thanks to Mary from the Cooper Union archive for digging out this little scan and actually enlarge it for me, because otherwise I would have no idea how he did in school. So Qing's college year witnessed a series of social events and cultural turmoil. The Vietnam War and constant debates against the drafting were well documented in the Cooper Union student newspaper, The Pioneer. As the war news gradually took up more and more space in the paper, the growing problem of drug use among young generations was gradually overlooked. For instance, on page 7 in the 8th issue of The Pioneer, published on Friday, 3rd February 1967, the Cooper Union Forum promoted a lecture, LSD and Narcotics, by Will Osler on Monday, February 6, 1967. Under such circumstances, Ching moved to Greenwich Valley, then moved in with his classmate Dwight Seat, who was the acting chairman of the new art school student council, and they moved into their studio in 305 Canal Street in Soho and quickly blended right into the hippie social life full of artists, musicians, and poets, and started his colorful personal life experience. Ching had a wide social circle, including art historian Gerald Shreve, Andy Warhol superstar Tally Brown, and poet Gregory Kossel, and etc. Heavily influenced by his teacher and peers and his lifestyle, Ching gained hallucinatory experience through drug use and visualized these allegorical images through delicate brushworks when he is lucid, which is basically the definition of the psychedelic art. So a definition about the psychedelic art, which is a broad category. It can be referred to either a style that artworks consist of freewheeling shapes, extravagated acid color, and pervasive formal entropy, or artworks done in the psychedelic era, the 1960s, when LSD were used widely spread through the nation. Moreover, it also includes artworks expressed in the form of representational images that is highly imaginative or visionary. So for Ching, his psychedelic work combined all of these three aspects. Influenced by his teacher, drug experience, which gave him the most incredibly innocent awareness of anything, and the time, the 1960 counterculture and politics, Ching created a visualization of the contemporary version of traditional Chinese philosophy worldview. So for example, in this vibrant angel hat, Ching demonstrated the sky is round and the earth is square, which is 天圆地方, a traditional Chinese cosmology theory, via depicting an opaque red irregular lump representing the heavenly sky, and the scarlet cube with yellow flame-like tentacles representing the earth. Numerous translucent sperm-shaped drops burst out from the earth, stretching towards all directions on the paper. Such creative depiction of the universe is a common theme in Ching's psychedelic work. In those days of social movement and political turmoil, especially after he was drafted into military service during the Vietnam War when he was in college, Ching found solace from Taoism and illustrated trances, rebirth, and double incarnation idea through egg symbols and other microorganism shapes. In 1976, he finally settled in the Chelsea Hotel and spent the rest of his life there. From the film Tally Brown, New York, we are able to have a glimpse of Ching's minimalistic life there. So here I have a clip of the film. I don't know if I have sound. Okay, no sound. Okay, so in the background of the photo on the right is his iconic psychedelic work, Angel Hat, from 1968, which also appeared in the film in the background here, and also you can tell there's a mouse, so it's kind of echo to what Beth mentioned in her, presentation. Although in the same interview in the Soho Weekly News, Ching claimed that he has stopped creating art since college graduation, except for Angel Hat. Ching created more psychedelic works in the early 1970s. So given the time, usually months, that Ching need to put into finishing each intricate pieces, it is clear that Ching never stopped creating artworks after his graduation. Ching also fell in love with Valley Mayers, an Australian artist and cult icon in Europe, at the Chelsea Hotel. So we can see Valley's in front of Chelsea Hotel. This is a photo of her book with a picture I found. So they were first met when Valley first arrived in New York City while Ching and T.Y. were sharing a loft, and so he is introduced to her at the time. According to Tracy Spanks, the author of Valley Mayer's Dream Within a Dream, after Valley Mayer moved to Europe, Ching visited Paris with Dwight in the 1970s. Yes, that's still the same Dwight. And stay at La Ruche. Ching's main purpose of this trip was to mingle with his lover, Valley, who heavily inspired Ching's creativity and lifestyle since then. In the book Valley Mayer's Dream Within a Dream, Ching is mentioned as a key figure alongside Valley's self-portrait in the drawing titled Houdini, when he visited Valley and Rudy in Positano and in Europe. In the picture, Ching's face appeared as a tattooed up with cloud-shaped curl lines with patterns which was inspired after the the Chinese opera mask and traditional kites. And also, in the Night Flowers, this is also a photo that Qing and Valley appear together. Valley is a girl with like tattoo on her face and leaning towards Qing's chest, and this is such a cute, loving photo. And as shown in their correspondence, Qing started to imitate Valley's curly, artistic handwriting style and merge Valley's metapsychosis theory with his own understanding of Chinese cosmology theory. So for instance, in Queenie, Qing depicted his Valley as a reincarnation of her pet fox, Foxy, as shown here. Here's a photo of Foxy from the journal. A tiny Foxy is portrayed in the center, surrounded by an 8-loop unfolding spiral. On each loop, there's a Valley face with a floating hair. On the adjacent loop, Valley's hair is either depicted in the brown color of Foxy's fur or in her own red color. So like you can see like from the middle, implying the ambiguity of the transformation, Qing's interpretation of Chuangzi gradually became more generalized, which was later directly reflected in his changing lifestyle. After Qing settled in Chelsea Hotel for a while, he lived a simplistic and disciplined life. According to Sibao, Qing's younger sister, Qing usually painted 7 hours every day. The long hours of indoor lifestyle was accompanied by a shift in his artistic expression, from the explosion to a more subtle observation of daily goods and interior scene, which to me is a practice of self-reflection, or vipassana, which is 内观, since the living environment is usually considered as the extension of oneself. From the detailed depiction of the peeling, crumbling, cracked bathroom wall and the water drops on the tiles, Qing saw a lunar landscape. Qing said, quote, "I travel through the wood grains of my floorboard. There are lofty mountains and calm lapping waters of a lake. Sometimes they are the drifting sands of the desert," unquote. He explored the man-nature unity, Taoism philosophy, and sought the vast universe through a relatively still position, and documented such subtle with smooth yet clear thin brushwork. Through painting the changing shapes of the window reflection on the cracked wall, Qing captured the concretized time. In the finished work of the Waterfall Chelsea Hotel, New York, on the right, Qing added a tiny, thin, spring-shaped line at the bottom right corner of the picture, which imitates the curly hair of his last lover, Gregory Millard, who passed away in 1984. So it should be here, but this is a draft, so like it doesn't have it here. Qing's privileged upbringing provided him with a solid education and fantastic art training, but also imposed constraints. His traditional family found it challenging to reconcile their values with Qing's avant-garde artistic choice, especially his involvement in tattoo art, nude photography, and a series of both heterosexual and homosexual relationships. This tension between traditional and rebellion became a central motif of Qing's art. This lovingly yet micro-dedication also hinted such tension and his unique passive-aggressive East Asian way of expression. More importantly, he brought the idea of self and human presence into the larger context of the interior scene as a representation of the natural. Such subtle practice soon get replaced by a movement-led approach. I view torn paper work as a transition phase toward the alchemical works, since through the rib, the three-dimensional quality is achieved on a two-dimensional surface, while this, quote, "the spontaneous gesture which can never be exactly duplicated is like lightning, which is never struck in the same place twice," unquote. At the meantime, Qing also explored the constructing and destructing nature via this metaphorical motion of collaging. Finally, during the alchemical phase, Qing grew three-dimensional sculptures from two-dimensional paper. He invented a new ecological method to create this abstract art form, which ultimately involving all the elements from the Taoism 5 elements theory, Wuxing. Qing usually lay a piece of 100% rag paper, which is wood, mu, treated with gasol, which is an acrylic calcium carbonate mixture, which to me is considered earth too, and sprinkled with copper or iron powder, which is definitely metal, in a large wood lining pool of vinegar water, and clearly water is shrink. to create actual brown and red rust through a 2 weeks oxidation. In the month-long process, Qing changed the water daily to keep the oxidation process going, which also echoes to the appreciation of lively water huoshui in East Asian culture. The Chelsea Hotel provided him with flexibility of creating such large-scale abstract works. His living and artistic needs were fulfilled by the manager Stanley Bard, who ran Qing larger apartments on a month-to-month basis to accommodate larger paintings. Qing's alchemical work became a growing part of his life as he closely observed how his work grew, and lived with them. It is clear that Qing was as much a part of the world's energy transformation as his work were. And after seeing Qing's practice in 1988, Henry Gazella commented that, quote, "The natural course of growth and decay soon become an integral part of Qing's art, and he became working with oxides that literally grow and change as they interact with the paper, water, and air, leaving an earthy, rusty residue on the surface to remind us that Qing art is not merely a representation of nature life, but an extension of it," unquote. As a Taoism believer, Qing and his alchemical work not only reflect the Taoism belief that nature itself is divine, and that we should live in harmony with the nature's cycle and systems, but also are conducted aligned with the 5 elements wuxing through the very natural process that Qing himself mentioned in that 1987 interview. Originated from the books of documents Shu, the 5 elements were first discussed in the chapter on flood management and later got developed to an elaborate system of 2 cycles of interactions, a generating or creation Shen cycle and an overcoming or destructive Ke cycle. Each of the 2 cycles can be analyzed going forward or reversed. Therefore, an interaction or energy flow can be expansive, destructive, or exhaustive, depending on the cycle to which it belongs. So in general, the internal or like the ultimate goal is to gather all 5 elements and to let them coexist. The goal was well achieved through the 5 elements show at Schiffer Gallery in 2015 by showing his early psychedelic work and garage interior scene alongside his late alchemical pieces. It seems like all 5 elements represented in Qing's work were brought together. The exhibition includes some of Qing's small flame studies as a direct reference of fire, as well as some explosive phase psychedelic piece as an indirect hint to the effervescent fire energy. Due to the size of the gallery, one of Qing's largest alchemical work, the grotto, was not able to be displayed, which was still included in the catalog of the exhibition alongside his hand-drawing sketch of his ambiguous work. And now I just take a picture from the catalog. So, however, the grotto was successfully displayed as an over 10 feet high and 20 feet long window installation at New York University Gray Art Gallery in 1987, exactly as he planned. 7 irregular torn panels of oxidized rag paper were composed together, forming an arch resembling the grotto he saw in Turkey. Inspired by nature, Qing imitated and immersed himself in the nature. The artwork and the artists both formed an organic demonstration of the creative and destructive aspect of the nature. In the same year of 1987, a more experimental installation of Qing's alchemical work, the alchemical garden, was displayed at the Bruno Facchetti Gallery, where he set up 3 wood-lined pools of a water vinegar solution, immersed several pieces of gesso treated and copper iron powder sprinkled torn paper into it. Instead of showing the audience of the resulting surface, Qing presented the natural process in the space and let the work grow with the viewers and himself. In other words, the subject of the exhibition has changed from a finished static object to a living ambience in progress, which is a nature that everyone, including Qing, lived in. By bringing in the new dimension, time, Qing once again broke down the boundaries of artistic expression, which seems to be Qing's general answer to his lifelong interest in the cyclical nature of life and death. From the repeated tearing and detaching and the decay and growing, Qing saw the cyclic rhythm that had attained eternity through the form of art as an everlasting energy. Thus, following the passing of his last lover, Gregory Miller, Qing scattered Gregory's ashes into Potomac River and crafted a monumental irregular shaped alchemical piece. Its shape mirrored the path traced by Gregory's ash as they flow, serving as a poignant tribute to their shared journey. This scattered trash finally added the last element, fire, into the process, which is cremated. which complete the cycle of harmony. The sketch demonstrates Qing's design of the piece of the path. So when I was researching this specific work, my first challenge is to identify the fuzzy hand drawing and its correspondent address on the map. So when comparing to Qing's sketch with the actual map, significant discrepancies are apparent in the locations of certain place names. For instance, according to the Google map, the current Walter Reed Hospital at the bottom is not by any river. After comparing the historical location of Walter Reed Hospital over different time period, I identified that Qing actually referred to what he referred to in his sketch with the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. However, even after making every location and road mentioned by Qing in the sketch, I still cannot align the outline Qing drew with the path of the Potomac River as shown on the map. So the mystery remained unsolved until when I was preparing for my teaching material of my ARS 201 Art of Asia. And Zheng He's map might be the possible solution I propose here, and also I welcome your suggestion on this topic. According to Mao Yuanyi's military book, Wu Bei Zhi, Ming Dynasty sailors invented the needle path map, or Zhenlu, for navigation along the coastline. So different from our contemporary maps, needle path map does not attempt to give a true or constant representation in its scale or orientation. Instead, it provides instruction along the route. So in other words, needle path map gradually unravels as it provides users with navigational information about what they lay ahead as a different location. So with the same changing perspective upon reading Qing's drawing, I'm able to identify different segments of the river that Gregory ashes floated through. So like I have to take a screenshot on Google Map and like rotate it a little bit to put it alongside with this map. And finally, actually it formed the shape. So through such almost ritualistic bodily practice, I think Qing left behind footprints shared with Gregory, ultimately immortalized in the form of a rusty sculpture, serving as an internal memento. Probably creating the alchemical work is Qing's acceptance in the face of various changes during his brief lifetime. Living through the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the AIDS epidemic, Qing transformed these chaotic experiences into a growing sacrifice during the repetitive and cycling process, ultimately leaving us a unique souvenir. According to Greg Shreve, the cause of Qing's death was chronic lung disease caused by working with iron and copper dust and toxic paint material. Qing's sketch and artistic method finally collide with his life, which served as a poignant testament to the coverage of his artistic journey, philosophical musing, and his voyage as a Chinese immigrant from one foreign land to another. Derrida's notion of the gift, with its emphasis on memory, obligation, and mutual exchange, provides us a new aspect to view Qing's lifelong artistic practice as a philosophical odyssey and remind us to revisit his history he lived in. So in his lifetime as a young artist, he was included in a lot of group show and exhibition and had quite a lot of solo exhibitions. His work was highly recognized by Henry Gazella, the first curator of contemporary art at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Yet his work did not enter major art institutions' collection, included the MMA collection, because of the Asian queer identity and avant-garde creative style. The major exclusion happened at a time when the MMA collection embraced more traditional forms of contemporary Chinese art, like new ink painting or ceramics works. Moreover, after the Great Gallery show, Qing Ho Chen died shortly afterwards, and there were no more solo exhibitions for at least 1 decade. But however, thanks to our Asian women, Qing's legacy is able to continue. His sister, Sibel Chen Wilson, started to donate his work to major museums since 2010, which promotes his publicity and elevate his market value among her donation pieces, Angel Hat and along with Glossolalia and Sun Drawing went to the Whitney Museum of American Art. And all three are excellent detailed works from Qing's psychedelic phase. In 2013, Angel Hat was shown in the Sinister Pop, a group show that is the 4th in a 2-year series that reassessed the Whitney collection in anticipation of museums' move downtown. And during COVID, Xing Wang, who's currently the curatorial director at Pace Gallery, ran into Qing's work in the archive of Whitney Museum of American Art when she was still working as a fellow at that time. and introduced Qing in her online public education program from 2020 to 2021, which caught the attention of galleries. Davis winner reached out to Qing and the Whitney, which led to a major solo show for Qing in 2021. The solo show More Life was also curated by an Asian American curator who took a gender and identity politics route to examine Qing's work and life. In 2021, Qing's psychedelic work Kiss were purchased by the Smithsonian Museum of American Art and shown in the American Voices and Visions curated by Melissa Ho in 2023. Now Qing's work are on display at 80 WSE Gallery at NYU, being a part of the Legacy Asian American art movements in New York City, 1969 to 2001, and the Appearance, the Art of Asian Diaspora in Latin America and Caribbean at America Society. Both exhibitions are curated by Asian American female curators, and they are still on display. So if you're visiting New York, please pay a visit, and he definitely had wonderful work that deserve you to look closely in person. And at the end to my presentation, I would like to circle back to my finding mentioned at the beginning. As denying who he, she is, or who they or you are, or who I am, we are trying to rewrite a mistaken stereotypical history with our research and represent our diverse identities in the constantly broadening field of academia. Thank you.